What if your voice echoed through jukeboxes, your song hit number one, and then you disappeared? Imagine this. It's 1960. Your record's climbing the charts, DJs can't stop spinning it, and for a brief, glittering moment, you're the sound of a generation. And then, silence. No follow-up hit, no sold-out tour. Just a fade into the background, as if history decided to skip your name. Some were swallowed by bad contracts, others by personal demons, and a few, they simply walked away. In this video, we're uncovering 13 unforgettable songs from 1960, tracks that hit big and then vanished, taking their creators with them. These are the stories of artists who tasted fame for a flicker, then fell off the map. From novelty hits and soul ballads to doo-wop gems and early rock crossovers, we're digging deep into the mysteries behind their rise and their sudden disappearances. Some tales are bizarre, others heartbreaking. But one thing's for sure, you won't hear these the same way again. Number 1, Hollywood Argyles, Alioop.
In the funny papers, we all know.
It was goofy, it was loud, and in 1960, it was a number 1 hit. Alioop, a bizarre, stomping anthem about a caveman superhero from an old comic strip, took the airwaves by storm. But the group behind it, the Hollywood Argyles, wasn't even a real band. It was a thrown-together studio act, assembled almost as a joke. Producer Kim Fowley and singer Gary S. Paxton cooked up the track in a last-minute, alcohol-fueled session with a revolving door of musicians. Somehow, against all odds, it blew up. The weird chanty vocals, the pounding beat, it caught on. But here's the twist. Because it wasn't a real band, there was no one to tour, no follow-up ready, and no plan. Just chaos. Paxton went on to a strange and scattered career in gospel and novelty music, but Alioop was lightning in a bottle, never to be repeated. A one-hit wonder in the truest sense. And if you think that's strange, wait until you hear about the next act. 2 guys with a single guitar, no bass, and one of the most offbeat songs ever to crack the top 10. Number 2, the Fendermen, Mule Skinner Blues.
Well, good morning to you. Another Mule Skinner.
What do you get when 2 college kids from Wisconsin plug their guitars into the same amp and wail an old Jimmy Rogers tune like it's a rockabilly riot? A top 5 hit, apparently. Mule Skinner Blues, released by the Fendermen in 1960, was raw, wild, and completely unforgettable. Jim Sundquist and Phil Humphrey stripped the song down to nothing but twang, reverb, and yelps. And somehow, it worked. Radio stations couldn't get enough of it. The song was loud, weird, and so different it became irresistible. But the Fendermen weren't built for the spotlight. They had no label support, no touring infrastructure, and, frankly, no idea how to follow up such a fluke. They tried another single, but lightning didn't strike twice. By 1961, they were finished. The music industry had moved on, and so had the public. Sundquist and Humphrey faded into obscurity, remembered only by collectors and rockabilly diehards. Still, if you think that's a strange way to burn out, wait till you meet the man who sang a novelty Civil War comedy, hit number 1, and then vanished into the desert. Literally. Number 3, Larry Verne, Mr. Custer.
Hey, in history, the men of the 7th Cavalry went fighting on.
You might not think a song about a terrified soldier begging not to go to the Battle of Little Bighorn would hit number 1. But in 1960, Mr. Custer did just that. Delivered in a comedic, trembling drawl by Larry Verne, the song captured the country's attention with its quirky mix of satire and slapstick. For a brief moment, Verne was everywhere. Late-night shows, radio interviews, TV spots, the works. But behind the scenes, he wasn't laughing. Verne hated the spotlight. After just a few months of fame, he realized he didn't want to be in show business at all. He released a few follow-ups, none of which charted, and by 1963, he'd left the music world behind completely. His new gig? Building sets for Hollywood movies. Seriously. The man who topped the Billboard charts with a comedy single spent the rest of his life quietly working as a carpenter on film sets, content to leave the microphone behind. He never tried a comeback, never chased nostalgia, just disappeared by choice. But not everyone had that luxury. Some artists vanished because, despite creating iconic hits, the world simply forgot. Like the next group, whose song you definitely know, even if their name rings no bells. Number 4, Maurice Williams and the Zodiacs, Stay. It's the shortest song ever to hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, just 1 minute and 38 seconds. But in 1960, Maurice Williams and the Zodiacs' Stay was nothing short of monumental. It was sweet, tight, impossibly smooth. A doo-wop falsetto dream that landed perfectly in a nation still swooning over prom night ballads. Maurice wrote it as a teenager, inspired by a girl who wouldn't linger just a little longer at his house. And despite its brevity, Stay became immortal. But for the Zodiacs, that brief success was also the ceiling. After Stay, they kept recording, kept hustling, but they never broke through again. Radio moved on. Rock evolved. Their moment had passed. The irony? The song itself didn't fade. It came roaring back 25 years later in Dirty Dancing, giving it new life. But not for the group who made it. Maurice and his band never got the second wind their song earned. Stay is everywhere. But the Zodiacs disappeared. And up next is another act that tasted stardom, only to lose everything to legal trouble, scandal, and an industry that's quick to shut the door. Number 5, Ron Holden with the Thunderbirds, Love You So.
My darling, I love you so more than you.
Ron Holden had the voice. Smooth, aching, unforgettable. In 1960, his song Love You So hit number 7 on the pop charts and even climbed the R&B rankings. The track was haunting, an earnest, heartfelt plea sung over a dreamy rhythm. But Ron's story was complicated from the start. He was discovered in jail, literally. While serving time on a marijuana charge, he recorded Love You So with local group The Thunderbirds after a producer bailed him out and gave him a shot. That overnight transformation, from prisoner to pop star, should have been the start of something huge. But the industry didn't know what to do with him. Follow-up singles flopped. His label dropped him, and racial barriers in the music business made it even harder for him to reclaim the spotlight. Ron continued recording into the 70s, but the momentum never returned. He faded from the public eye and passed away in 1997. The voice remained, but the fame did not. And speaking of forgotten voices, the next artist wrote a timeless tune that everyone else made famous, except him. Number 6, Harold Dorman, Mountain of Love.
Standing on the mountain looking down on the city, the way I feel is a dog.
You've probably heard Mountain of Love, maybe the Johnny Rivers version, or even Bruce Springsteen's cover. But long before those, it was Harold Dorman's song. Written and recorded by the Mississippi native in 1960, the original version cracked the top 40 and hinted at something big. It was soulful, rugged, and undeniably catchy. A crossover hit that felt like it belonged on every jukebox in America. But Harold Dorman's name? It never stuck. Despite writing a song that would live on for decades, Dorman couldn't build a career off its success. Follow-up singles fizzled. His label dropped him. And though his songwriting talent was obvious, he didn't have the backing or charisma to hold the spotlight. By the mid-60s, he had moved into songwriting full-time, letting others perform his material while his own career faded into the background. He died in 1988, never quite receiving the credit his creation deserved. Mountain of Love became a staple, but its creator vanished into the footnotes. And now, get ready for a musical oddity straight from the college dorms. 3 students, a cartoon bear, and a song that somehow hit the top 10. Number 7, the Ivy 3, Yogi.
I saw a coat who was standing on his head.
3 college buddies, 1 novelty song, and a cartoon bear that somehow helped them crack the top 10 in 1960. Yogi by the Ivy 3 was pure bubblegum pop, catchy, squeaky clean, and utterly harmless. Inspired by Yogi Bear, the song played off the character's goofy charm just as Hanna-Barbera cartoons were booming in popularity. It was cheeky, it was fast, and to everyone's surprise, it was a hit. The Ivy 3 were just students at Adelphi University in New York. Charles Koppelman, Don Rubin, and Bob Schwartz. None of them expected the song to go national. They didn't tour, they didn't release a serious follow-up. And truthfully, they never meant to be full-time musicians. In fact, the group disbanded not long after Yogi faded from the charts. But here's the twist. One member, Koppelman, would go on to become a major music executive, working with everyone from Barbra Streisand to Vanilla Ice. Yogi was just the warm-up, but for the group, it was one and done. And next up is another teenage group, except their downfall came not from inexperience, but from bitter betrayal and lawsuits before they could even tour. Number 8, the Paradons, Diamonds and Pearls.
Diamonds, pearls, emeralds, and
They were still in high school, literally. The Paradons came straight out of Bakersfield, California, bringing silky harmonies and a doo-wop sound that dripped with romance. Diamonds and Pearls was their breakout. Released in 1960, it shot to number 1, 18 on the Billboard Hot 100. Smooth vocals, slow groove, and a dreamy delivery that made it perfect for slow dances across America. But behind the scenes, total chaos. The group was young and inexperienced, and their record label pounced. The Paradons signed a shady contract they didn't fully understand, and soon they were embroiled in royalty disputes before they'd even begun their first real tour. Within months of their debut, they broke up. Lawsuits, internal arguments, and bitter feelings destroyed any shot at a follow-up. They had the talent, they had the hit, but they didn't have the control. Diamonds and Pearls remains a beloved doo-wop classic, but the group behind it disappeared before they could even buy suits to match. Next up, a man who poked fun at pop culture's obsession with death ballads, and ironically created a song about living that's still stuck in our heads decades later. Number 9, Bob Lumen. Let's Think About Living.
Every other song that I've heard lately, some fellow gets shot, and his baby and his best friend both die with
At a time when the charts were filled with tragic teen tales, songs about car crashes, lost love, and weepy goodbyes, Bob Lumen delivered something entirely different. With Let's Think About Living, he flipped the trend on its head. Released in 1960, the song cheekily mocked the doom and gloom of pop radio, urging listeners to stop singing about dying and start singing about living instead. The message landed, and the song climbed into the top 10 with a smile on its face. Lumen had started as a rockabilly artist with real promise. But despite his good looks, killer voice, and stage charisma, he never quite fit into the pop mold, or the country one either. He was too country for rock and too rock for country. It made him hard to categorize, and radio programmers didn't know where to place him. After his big hit, he drifted toward the Nashville scene, scoring some minor chart successes but never repeating the impact of Let's Think About Living. He kept performing until his death in 1978. But in pop memory, he's still frozen in that one bright moment. Coming up next, a hit song that confused everyone, not because of its melody, but because no one was sure who actually sang it. Number 10, The Statues with Gary Miles, Look for a Star. Here's a case where even the hit song didn't know who it belonged to. Look for a Star became a 1960 pop favorite thanks to the British film Circus of Horrors, a hauntingly gentle ballad that stuck in listeners' minds. The original version, sung by UK artist Gary Mills, started gaining traction in the US. But instead of releasing his version stateside, a producer rushed out a nearly identical cover, credited to Gary Miles, performed by Buzz Cason using a stage name meant to confuse listeners, and it worked. The cover charted higher than the original, hitting number 16 on the Billboard Hot 100, while the original lagged behind. The confusion was so strong that many still think Mills and Miles were the same person. But here's the twist. Buzz Cason didn't stick with the name. He went back to behind-the-scenes work as a songwriter and producer, and The Statues, the credited group, faded without a follow-up. In the end, the song outshined everyone who performed it. A hit without a clear identity. And next, a group who did make their name known, with an angelic remake of a classic that turned heads in 1960, only to vanish just as quickly. Number 11, The Dimensions, Over the Rainbow. It takes guts to cover a song as iconic as Over the Rainbow, and even more to do it with a dreamy, almost eerie twist. But The Dimensions pulled it off. Their 1960 version turned the Judy Garland classic into a soaring doo-wop ballad filled with ethereal harmonies and echoing reverb. It felt fresh, haunting, almost like a lullaby from a different dimension. And it worked. It became a national hit, climbing into the top 20. The Dimensions, a Bronx-based quartet, had serious vocal chops and teenage charm. For a brief moment, they seemed poised to be the next big thing in harmony-driven pop. But the pressure to deliver another hit proved too much. Follow-ups like My Foolish Heart never caught fire. Internal tension grew. The changing musical landscape, shifting fast toward surf rock and British pop, left their dreamy doo-wop style behind. They reunited briefly years later, but the magic was gone. Still, their version of Over the Rainbow remains one of the most hauntingly beautiful covers ever recorded. And now, let's take a left turn into a hit with no lyrics at all, released under a fake name and caught in a web of industry politics. Number 12. Spencer Ross, Tracys Theme. It's not every day that an instrumental climbs the pop charts, especially one originally written for a TV show. Tracys Theme was a delicate, piano-driven piece composed for the NBC drama Young Dr. Malone. It wasn't supposed to be a hit, but the melody was so pretty, so instantly memorable, that it crossed over into the mainstream. Released under the name Spencer Ross, the record reached number 13 on the Billboard chart in 1960. But here's the kicker. Spencer Ross wasn't a real person. The actual composer was Robert Mersey, a well-respected arranger and producer who worked behind the scenes, with major names like Aretha Franklin and Andy Williams. Because of contract conflicts, Mersey couldn't put his real name on the release, so Spencer Ross was born out of necessity. The song succeeded, but the man behind it remained in the shadows. Mersey never pursued a solo artist career. Tracys Theme became his one charting moment, but it was cloaked in anonymity, a faceless hit in a name-game industry. And up next, we return to a real voice and a real face, Larry Hall. A teen heartthrob who caught fire with one soft, catchy tune, but couldn't hang on to the spotlight. Number 13, Larry Hall, Sandy.
Took every sweet thing like sugar and spice, ice
He
cream.
looked the part, clean-cut, boy-next-door charm. And in 1960, Larry Hall seemed poised to ride the teen idol wave with his breakout single, Sandy. The song was tender and sweet. An innocent, mid-tempo pop tune that felt custom-made for sock hops and AM radio. It broke into the top 20, earning Larry a brief spot in the national spotlight and the kind of frenzied fan mail that could fill a trunk. But behind the scenes, things weren't so polished. Larry's rise was a fluke. Sandy had started as a regional hit, and the national release happened almost by accident, catching even the label off guard. He had no established team, no clear artistic direction, and no hit-worthy follow-up ready. His next few singles landed with a thud. Radio stations moved on to slicker acts, and Larry quickly slipped into obscurity. By the mid-60s, he was out of the game entirely. His brief time as a teen idol faded into trivia, Sandy living on as a nostalgic gem with a forgotten face behind it. If any of these names caught you off guard, or brought back a memory you didn't expect, you're not alone. These artists may have vanished, but their songs still live on. If you enjoyed this dive into 1960s forgotten chart toppers, hit that like button and let us know in the comments. Which one do you remember, and which one surprised you most? And don't forget to subscribe. There's plenty more coming. We've got more lost legends, forgotten hits, and untold music mysteries just around the corner. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep listening close. Because sometimes the one-hit wonders are the ones with the best stories.